You're listening to 101 with Tommie Zam. On the 44th episode, we sit down with Taylor Silverman talking about skateboarding and life. Let's do this. Hey Taylor, how you doing?
Hey Tommy, I'm good. How are you?
Good. So where are you located at?
Today I'm out in West Virginia, but I've been a little bit all over the place traveling for the holiday season. So I'm out here now, but I just got back from my hometown out in Michigan. What
Oh
about
man.
you?
I'm out in San Diego right now, so it's nice, but today is a little bit rainy, but a little bit cold. So it's not your typical San Diego weather right now.
Yeah, it's that's how it is all the time out here, rainy.
Yeah, it is. But East Coast and the South gets a lot of rain, but you're from Michigan, right?
Originally from Michigan, from Kalamazoo.
Okay. And what was it like growing up there?
It was, I mean, it was good. I like it out there a lot. I love going home and visiting my family and my friends, and it's a good state if you like to snowboard. I grew up right by a ski resort out there, and then I started skating when I was a teenager out there. But overall, I really like it out there. It's beautiful.
And that's where you say you snowboarded and skied, or you just did both at the same time?
Just snowboarding. I'm terrible at skiing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like never figured out skiing. It's so scary for me. I feel like I'm gonna twist my leg. Like being on the board with my feet together makes so much more sense in my head. I don't know why.
Yeah. See, I never skied or snowboard. I think I'm just more afraid to snowboard or ski just because my feet are glued to the board, and I just don't like my feet being glued to the board.
The bindings is a little weird. Like I started off on a snowboard, but now that I do a lot more skating than I do snowboarding, I like that I can step off, that I can bail. Because with snowboard, it's like you have to commit to everything first try.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Were you pretty good or what?
I'm not like anything too special, but I'm competent and I like to mess around in the little train park they have out at Bittersweet Ski Resort and like Cannonsburg. But I never really traveled too much to snowboard or went to any bigger resorts. I kind of just stayed in my own backyard.
Oh, cool. And do you remember how old you were when you first started?
First started snowboarding, um, I was probably like 14. It was because I was really into like some other sports. I played like softball and basketball growing up, and I was becoming less interested in those and like the team sports. I wanted something more independent to do. And I had several friends who snowboarded and skied. So I started getting into that where I just like go with a friend. And eventually I was like, I really want my own snowboard. And I decided that was what I was going to focus on.
That's rad. And then like you did team sports, and then you you start doing string sports. I mean, what's the difference between both of them towards with what you think?
I think they're both good. Like especially as a little kid, playing a lot of sports. And when I first started, like I grew up with a single dad, so I was signed up for every sport you could imagine.
Hmm.
But I kind of found the ones that I liked more and that I was good at. And it was really positive for me to do the team sports because you learn a lot of life skills from those. You learn how to work on a team, you build your confidence, you learn how to win well, how to lose well, you learn sportsmanship. And I thought it was really valuable. But as I got older, I started to realize that a lot of those things they're over after high school or college. And I
Hmm.
thought, like, what am I going to do to keep myself busy, to stay in shape, and to challenge myself and, keep having something fun to look forward to go do on the weekend? And for me, it was skateboarding and snowboarding that stood out, that looked like a lot of fun and seemed like something you could go do on your own. You could go do with friends. You don't need a coach. Like, you just go and you make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, I know I grew up, I grew up mostly playing soccer when I was little,
Mhm.
but that didn't last long. And then I tried basketball in high school, and I was good, but the coach didn't really, I don't know, the coach didn't pick me. So, but I still skateboarded then. And then when I didn't pick up skateboarding. I mean, I always picked up skateboarding because my dad, and my two older brothers, they always had skateboards in there, and
Oh, that's
old skateboards from the '60s and '70s, the banana boards, and
mhm.
my brother's skateboard, so I would steal their board. So I got into it like that, but I officially got into skateboarding probably I would say like end of seventh, going into eighth grade summer, or seventh. What do you say? Eighth grade summer or something like that. Whatever. So that's
Yeah,
when I officially got into it. You know.
that's just like a few years before I did. I was like, I had snowboarded for a couple years, and I started skateboarding when I was like 16.
Oh, okay. And what got you into skateboarding? Like a boyfriend, homies,
No.
being on X Games. I mean, playing Tony Hawk. I mean, what got you into it?
Oh, I think actually my first exposure to skateboarding probably was playing like the old Tony Hawk underground games at friends' houses. But no,
Oh
not
yeah,
it
that's right.
wasn't ever a boyfriend. I I don't know, I try to avoid guys who skate at this point. But I had friends who skated, and I I remember it was something I just thought looked like a lot of fun. Like, I have this memory from when I was in like elementary school, and one of the girls who I hung out with a lot and spent a lot of time with at each other's houses on, the weekends and stuff, sleepovers, whatever. She had an older brother who skated, and I remember they had a mini ramp in their garage, and there was one day that her and I got to her house with her mom, and her brother just he like cavemaned off of the little stairs in the garage and snapped his board in half. And I was like, wow, that was awesome. Like, little Taylor was just amazed. And I don't know, it was like moments like that that I saw it and just thought it looked like the coolest thing throughout my childhood that probably led to me thinking like I should do this. But when I first started, it was like I felt because I could ride a snowboard, it was going to be similar, and I
Mhm,
realized immediately it was a totally different thing, and it was a lot harder to learn than snowboarding, at least for me. So it took me like years to get comfortable just doing the basics, and I never really expected to do much with it other than just have it as a hobby.
mhm. And back to a little bit what you said. You said that you personally thought skateboarding is a lot harder than snowboarding. Why you say that?
Um, well, for me, it was because, when you first have like your bad slam and you're like, damn, like this is actually rough. It was a lot worse for me than wiping out in the snow. And I don't know, like when I first started snowboarding, I wasn't so intimidated by like, jumping on a little handrail or like hitting a jump. But skateboarding, it's like the first time you're learning how to do the simplest thing. Like, you're standing on the top of a quarter pipe, wanting to drop in, and your whole body is like hesitating, like, don't do it. Like, this is dangerous. This is a bad idea. But you want to do it so bad, and you know that you can and that it's possible. But like, that was stuff that just overcoming the fear of was a big step. And I think it is for a lot of people.
Hmm.
But it's like I still feel it when I do it now, but now it's become something I like enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. And to what you're saying, I mean, yeah, you're falling on snow, but compared to falling on concrete and hard concrete, that's a. I mean, I don't know if it's. I mean, I never fell in snow before, so I don't know how it feels if it's like a falling on a cloud, like fluffy or something.
It depends on the day. It
Depends
can
on the
be
day.
bad too, but it depends on the day. And I don't know, I think a lot of it was just like thinking that jumping on the board and being able to ride was going to be easy, and then being really humbled in the beginning, realizing like, oh my gosh, like it's going to take some practice just to learn how to like push.
Yeah.
But that was like a good thing for me to be doing when I was a teenager, and it definitely shaped me, and it has definitely helped me in other aspects of my life, the mentality you gain from
Mhm.
going through that and learning all that stuff.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go back a little bit. What was it like growing up with a single parent?
Um, for me, I never knew any different. So I didn't ever think anything of it. And it was only when somebody else said something about it that I, like, when I was little, that I was like, oh, this is different. But in my situation, it was a little more uncommon because I had a single dad.
Hmm.
And I never had a mom. You know, she was like real sick when I was really little, and she was out of the picture when I was a baby. So
Hmm.
I I remember like occasionally someone would, you know, say something about like, oh, well, ask your mom if you can do this. And I'd be like, oh, I have a dad, I don't have a mom. And then other kids would like apologize to me. And I was like, what is so bad? Like, why are you sorry? You don't have to be sorry. This is just my life. But I got really lucky because though I had a single parent, the parent I did have, well, still have, is outstanding. I
Hmm.
mean, I think I got really lucky. I think that a lot of people grow up with single parents, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. And you know, it's unfortunate that kids are in situations like that, but it hasn't deterred me in life. And I'm really, really close with my dad, so I I'm glad that we have the relationship we do. And I never really thought much about like what it would be like for it to not to be this way, because it never was.
Yeah. And then that must be, tough on your dad too, I mean, to make raising you to be who you are now, a very intelligent woman, but also too knowing that, man, I got so much on my plate. I got to raise his daughter. I don't know how to raise his daughter. Did he have people help him, or did he just read a book like, okay, this is how you raise a daughter?
Maybe we'll have to get him on the podcast next to us. No, I over the years, like my grandparents were really involved in my life, so that was great that they helped out, and I was really lucky. I got to go visit them in the summer times. I'd go there for a couple weeks, not every year, but you know, several times throughout my childhood, and they lived out in Southern California, so for me, there were really cool aspects to it too. I got to go visit my grandparents in California, and I never knew what it was like to have anything other than what I had, so I didn't really view it as abnormal. And for the most part, like, nobody treated me any different. I'm sure it was really difficult for him, but I he's just a really strong person. He's never said it was difficult. He just is the kind of person that if there's a job to be done, he does it.
That's awesome. That's a good dad. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a really good dad.
I think like I got a really good hand dealt to me in that aspect, cuz I do think that a lot of who I am is, you know, a product of my raising.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's been really supportive of me. It's pretty beautiful thing, and it's been um how do I say, like, it's been kind of intense for me to like experience going into adulthood and how that changes your relationship with your parent. Like, now I can go and like have a beer with my dad, and it just, I don't know, every time we do that I think about like how far we've come, both of us. This
Yeah.
sounds so sappy. Why?
No, no, it doesn't.
Emotions.
Well, because you got to think about it. You know, this. I know I have two parents. I had two parents. So I never
Hmm.
had. Well, no, when my dad was gone in the military, when he
Oh,
was
okay.
in the army, he was gone and then my dad was. That's the reason why we moved to Pensacola, is that
Hmm.
way they can retire. That my dad can retire there because he was about to be stationed off and didn't want to travel with three kids, three boys and a wife, and it would be a lot of hard traveling. So that's why you know, retired in Pensacola. Um, but when he was gone, it was just my mom raising three boys. So in a way,
How
I
long
kind
would
of,
he be gone for at a time?
oh man, it would be years.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, because he'd be gone for Germany, and he'd be stationed in Germany, he'd be stationed all over. But he'll come back for a few months or a year and then be gone. You know what I mean? So it kind of like, I don't want to say I'm in the same situation what you were in, but I kind of understand, like,
Yes,
what you're
no, that's definitely like relatable. I mean, the one difference is you had someone to miss. I feel like that's harder.
Yeah. Well, see, I never knew my dad. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I mean, I knew who he was, but we never hung out or never
Mm.
had like a relationship or talked. You know, because he was always either gone, he'd be here, be tired, working, whatever, doing stuff. But only way we grew together is when he retired, and I was like in freshman high school when he finally retired from the army, and so we kind of over the years we built a relationship over the years, you know, for a long time, ever since from freshman till now, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Were you always really close with your mom when you were young?
yeah, yeah, I was very close because I was mama's boy.
Mhm.
You know, so I mean, I had two older brothers that raised me, you know, but I mean, you know, but it was like my mom was basically there to, you know, she would work like 3 or 4 jobs and make sure we have food on our table. Times she wouldn't eat because she had to pay bills and, you know, make sure we're healthy and everything, you know. So in a way I kind of understand what you're going through,
Mhm.
you know, what you're, you know, but I mean, but for your dad to have a daughter and raise her, I mean, that's his, you know, going through teenage years and going through your first boyfriend and going moving out of the house and all that. He was probably like, "What? I didn't expect this."
Oh, there were definitely times that well, like I said before, like I didn't realize things were any different for me, but there's times that like having to go tell your dad that you got your first period or something, mortifying. Like
He probably didn't know what to do. It's like, "Whoa, I don't know what to do." Call
well,
grandma.
he just treated it like any other job. Like, all right, well, we got a checklist of things we got to do to deal with it. I'm like, oh my god, dad. But no, for the most part, like we were always really close, and he was always really involved. Like he would coach like softball teams and stuff. So we did a lot of stuff together. We still do. But
That's right.
I had like older siblings, and I was the youngest by many years, so they probably you know, they were babysitting me and taking care of me a lot too.
That's cool. So I mean, that's definitely cool that you got a good knit family. You know, you're raised with a good family, good morals. You know, people. You know, your dad being there for you from day one to now. You know, and having people help grow you. I mean, you became a strong woman as you are now. You know.
There's been challenging times too, and there still are now sometimes, but I think having a good relationship with your family is a really good foundation, and it hasn't always been easy. Like there's been times we haven't gotten along the greatest, but I think that it's all come to where it is, and is it's all happened for a reason, you know.
And at the end of the day, they're your parents. You know what I mean? They're the ones that brought you to this earth and say, "Here's the world. Go learn it." You know.
Yeah, and I is the older I get, the more I see like how much sacrifice goes into that, and it makes it scary to think about being a parent one day, but also like I feel like I'd rather have these realizations to prepare for that now than, you know, realize along the way.
Yeah. No, definitely. I totally see what you're saying. And so when you told your dad you want to skateboard and get away from sports, was he stoked about that? Was he like 100% backing you on that or what?
Oh, no. It wasn't that he was like, "I don't want you to do the thing that you wanna do, that you like," but he was like, "What's this gonna do to our insurance? Like, you're gonna be" and I it's like the normal concerns that any parent would have with a teenager who's going out and just, like, throwing themselves down a stair set. Like, of course, that's, it's gonna potentially be dangerous, and I had, like, you know, injuries and stuff throughout the years. Luckily nothing ever too serious, but in the very beginning he was like hesitant, like I don't know about this might not be a good route, but he knew that it was what I wanted to do, and I had an agreement with my dad right from the very beginning that I would always wear a helmet,
Hmm.
and that I still do. And if I were to like post a video of me skating the half pipe without a helmet, I get a text from him telling me telling me how stupid I'm being and that he's not gonna come pick me up from the hospital when I get hurt. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know. But I try to like even obviously like for my own sake, I wanna take care of myself and be as safe as I can, but also, for the sanity and to reduce the anxiety of parents, I think kids should really just wear the helmet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, knock on wood. I mean, I haven't worn it, and I think I wore a helmet one time in my whole entire life.
Yeah, I know it's not something everybody's into, but
Well, I mean, I grew up in Florida, and Florida is freaking hot, and wear a
oh
helmet
yeah.
and outside at a skate park with a helmet on, and it's like 100 degrees. It's not kosher, man. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely not kosher.
I've definitely had days where it's not comfortable, but you just gotta, do your best to make it work.
Yeah. And what was it like skateboarding in your town? Was there like a big skateboard shop that supported the scene? Like, was there a lot of skate parks? Did you have to learn on the street? I mean, what was it like?
So for me, I was lucky that there's it's indoor and outdoor, but an indoor park out there that's also got a shop called the Kalamazoo Skate Zoo. And this place was probably the safest place. It was in a bad part of town. It's still there, but it despite being in a bad part of town, it was run by a good guy, and I could go there and no one was going to really bother me.
Mhm.
And that is where I learned to skate for the most part. And then there's a couple other outdoor parks that are local. There's like the Portage Park, and there was this park in like close to the north side called Vine, and that park is really bad. But then there was a new park built over in the student ghetto called Davis Street. It's also a rougher park, but Skate Zoo and Portage Park were pretty good for me as a teenager, and there's definitely people who like treated me terrible just because I was
Really?
different, but for the most part, my experience was really good. Like those were the outliers.
Well, we'll go back a little bit. So people would treat you wrong because you're a woman skater, or just because of who you are, or what?
I think when I was like a teenage girl, like that wasn't something as common at the skate park. And there are some people who are really excited and supportive because of that. They thought, well, like this is cool. We don't see a lot of girls coming skating in this town, and it's like all the girls who do skate, you know about them because there's only a few. But at the time I was skating, there wasn't a lot of that, and most people were really nice about it. I had, a group of friends when I was young who I would skate with, and there's still people when I go back to my hometown. I hit up a handful of people who I still am really like cool with and love to skate with to this day, and have been skating with for over 10 years. But there were always, people who like it's not even like they had a problem with me. It's like it was a personal thing that they were taking out on somebody else.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I definitely experienced like a little bit of bullying here and there, but that's nothing compared to now. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no, I know what you're saying. But I mean, do you feel like, like since you're a woman skater and you're a beginner woman skater trying to learn the skate park and learn the skate language and the tricks and stuff like that, do you feel that like the guy male skaters in your town were just kind of like, yo, who's this chick? Why is she skateboarding? Did you feel like it was a male's club or something in your town that you kind of like joined, and then all of a sudden that you're not accepted?
um I mean, there's definitely some people who I think do see women at the skate park and like, give the dirty look and go and like fist bump everyone and say hi and skip the girl. And they just, treat you differently or treat you kind of in a condescending way. But overall, people are pretty normal. They're really just there to skate, and they recognize that everybody there just loves the same thing that they do. But there's also like some of the rougher skate parks in Kalamazoo, we'd have issues with like hard drug addicts, like just kind of like starting to live at the park. And
Hmm.
I'd get harassed by these people and I wouldn't tolerate their bullshit. But that was like kind of a separate thing. Like they didn't really skate. They were kind of just like loitering at the park and harassing people.
Hmm.
But at the decent parks like Skate Zoo, I don't really have a problem at Skate Zoo ever. And Portage Park, I never really had a problem at. But you go to Kalamazoo, and you're out there by yourself at Vine or Davis, like somebody could try to start some shit with you. And I think that probably is one of the reasons why there's not really a lot of girls or women skating there.
Really?
Because the thing that I've noticed is it's not uncommon actually to see girls or women come to the park who are beginners and, kind of try to, learn the ropes, and they're working on some of the basics, and they get treated not so hot, and then they don't continue coming.
Hmm.
And I got lucky, I had Skate Zoo. I had a good group of other friends when I was a kid. So I never really thought of myself as much different, even though, you deal with the occasional asshole. But I think there's been a lot of girls who try to learn to skate in Kalamazoo and quickly find out it's not going to be an accepting place for them. And then they go find something else to do. And I think that's sad because,
That's super sad.
like, I think that if anybody who wants to learn to skate shows up at the park and is putting in the work and taking the time, that should be respected. And if people have a problem with, like, a beginner, like they're so threatened by somebody who just like thought that this looked like fun, I really don't think it's usually a problem with that person. It's more of an internal thing.
Yeah. No, definitely. And like, sorry, I forgot. I had a brain fart there. A quick second.
No, do you ever deal with like assholes at the skate park?
uh, I mean, honestly, I've been to a lot of skate parks, especially around here. I don't really deal that much assholes, really. Like,
Yeah.
but if I go back to Florida to go skate, like some of the skate parks there, it's a lot different than here.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it's little. I mean, you'll deal with like prime example. Like I helped get this skate park built in St. Pete Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the local skaters to come, and we talked to the city councilman people to get the park built, and we wanted they were going to give us a small slab, and we're like, cool. So we kind of wanted something cooler, but they went to go to a refab company and just built some like ridiculous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we were all stoked about it. I was like, hey, you know what? At least we got a skate park. You know what I
Wait,
mean? At
is
least we got
that the skate park with the snake run and the big pool?
no,
I'm
no,
thinking of
no,
the wrong one.
no. That's the Snake Run is Kona. That's Kona Skate Park.
No, no, not Kona. This is like over um on the other side. Maybe I'm getting my geography mixed up. I lived in Miami for a little bit and I travel around, but
Yeah,
I
this was up. St. Pete was over as part of Tampa Bay.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like when I go skate Spot Tampa, we go over to that St. Pete Park and it's
Oh no,
inside.
that's a different park. That's the
Okay.
downtown park. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
downtown park. This is before that downtown skate park got built. So
Okay.
there was like Keo Key Park. There was another park that was kind of built that's still there, metal ramps and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then we got one built in St. Pete, and it was a fun little park. And it was small and fun. We did events there. I did like little Red Bull contests there. I did like it was fun, and everybody went out there. But the problem was we had assholes that don't skateboard went there and started doing graffiti and
Yeah.
and making it worse. And then the city turned around and blamed us for it and tore down the park.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. Like it's crazy how it's almost never the skateboarders who are like vandalizing the park or causing those types of problems, but they always are the ones who deal with the consequences of it.
Well, they hate us. It's the city council people that don't like skateboarders. No city does, even though they say they do not, I don't believe half of them anyway. So, but no, but I mean, we dealt with some. There was another park too over there that was built. It was, I can't remember. It was a plaza that got built. It
Hmm.
was built in the hood, but we had issues there too. But they never messed with me because I was older, but they mess with the younger kids and like jump them for their cameras or the
Oh
reflector
yeah.
looking out and stuff like that and everything. The cops wouldn't do anything. So, but the kids relatives, brothers or whatever, were playing basketball across the street, to come over and break up, get onto the kid that's starting the trouble with the skaters, and so it kind of got like the local neighborhood gang or whatever you want to call it, kind of protected the skate park.
They're like self-policing the park.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they see us as skaters not doing anything wrong, but you got these other kids coming in causing trouble. But the local gang kind of like, hey, this is our park. Don't fuck with it.
Yeah, and I think that's so true too, that the people who do that kind of stuff at the park, they're careful about who they mess with. They'll pick on kids, they'll pick on women, but they won't mess with like the bigger dudes. And then those dudes, they might not even mess with anybody when they're there. So they won't realize how big of a problem it is that there's
Yeah.
like an actual crackhead running around like harassing women and little children who are playing on the playground next to the park.
Hold on, they're messing with kids on the playground?
Well, the Davis Park, they got a playground right there. So anytime someone's like assing like a total nut job at the park, they're doing it in front of like 4-year-olds. And to
What?
me, that is a hard line that, isn't all right to cross. Like that's not okay. Cannot
No,
happen.
no, cops should be on top of that. You know what I mean? Cleaning up that area just because you got kids there.
Yeah, and it's like I get that people don't want like cops lingering around the park, but in certain areas it's like what the hell are you supposed to do? Like it puts the skaters in a bad position when they do have to go self-police those situations. So it's like you kind of have to figure out how to deal with it, and sometimes that's the only way to deal with it. But
Yeah, no, you're right. You're definitely right. And so so when did you start becoming sponsored? Did you have like a shop sponsor? Did the shop sponsor like help you get company sponsors? Like how did you get into that part
I
of sporting?
I never had any like huge sponsors. I would it's funny, like everybody reports this whole story like like this is like high level professional skateboarding, and I've been, clear the whole time, this is like these contests are like contests. Like sometimes some pros enter them too, or they'll be open to both, and like but the reason why people who don't skateboard see it that way is they think, well, there's money. Like
Mhm.
y'all are making money. But my sponsors over the years, Skate Zoo never had a team. So that I was like, I'm just gonna support this place because they've always supported me, and the shop's always been real nice to me and helped me out. But my first like board sponsor was a local company out in Kalamazoo, kind of like Kalamazoo Battle Creek area, if you're like familiar with Southwest Michigan. They're
Mhm.
called 5 Mile Hill. And they just picked me up like trying to even think what year it was. This was way back in like I could be wrong. My memory is escaping me, but it's like 2018 maybe. They asked me if I wanted to like ride for them and get, a certain number of boards every year, and they would, pay my contest entry fees, and it was really like a good relationship, and it kind of taught me how that worked out. But eventually I was, traveling so much and I was going through more boards than I was getting, and though I had like, a real good relationship with the guy who ran the company, there's like, certain people on the team who I didn't really feel super comfortable around, and I decided that I wanted to, end that relationship on a good note, and we had a conversation about it, and they've always been supportive of me to this day, regardless of me riding for them or not.
Mhm.
But that was like just a decision that I made, and I wanted to actually, like at the time, I was like, man, I'd rather be just like buying skate zoo decks and riding these because I really want to support this local shop that is, my home park. But 5 Mile Hill's still cool. Like shout out to 5 Mile Hill. If you live out in Southwest Michigan, you can buy one of their boards at one of the shops out there, and they're good boards.
Oh yeah, and so that's where, well, that was basically your first sponsor, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, and then that what got you to more into competitions, and that's when you got the taste of competitions through that company when they were paying for you to competitions and stuff like that, correct?
Well, I'd done a couple competitions here and there, just like little local ones. And
Mhm.
the border used to, actually they probably still do sometimes, but they used to do like annual contests out at the Ann Arbor skate park, which is just like a few hours from where I was at. So I'd go out to those. I'd go out to contests at Modern Skate Park out in Detroit and different outdoor parks around there. And it wasn't anything that I was like, heavily pursuing. It was just, oh, like, oh, there's an event this weekend. Everyone's going. Sure, I'll go check it out. And most of those contests, like when there are like little contests in Kalamazoo and stuff, there's no women's divisions. That I would just enter and I'd tell them, judge me and put me in whatever, uh, division you want to put me in, or if it's just one division, whatever.
So,
But
hold on. So you basically skated more men contests because there was not that many women contests,
just
or
a couple, like, there were times I went over to Detroit. There's one in Kalamazoo years ago. It was like there's this other little company out in Kalamazoo years ago. I don't even think they're still around anymore, but they used to do some contests out at the Vine Park, the real bad one. But
Mhm.
yeah, those, they didn't have women's divisions. It was like there was not going to be a division for me. So me being at the disadvantage, they just let me in the dudes contest. But sometimes I'd do well. Sometimes I'd place in those and I'd be like didn't expect that, but nice. Like, but then like the first like women's divisions I did, I think, was out in Ann Arbor. They would have the bowl jams, they'd have a street contest, and it'd be like this whole fun event for like the whole weekend. And there'd be people who'd travel from all over. Like you'd see people coming from Chicago, you'd see people coming, sometimes there were people from like New York there, like people come from all over. And
Mhm.
that was like the first time I'd go to a contest and there'd be like four girls. And I was like, oh my God, there's more of us than I thought. And it's like crazy thinking about now because I've been to contests where there's like dozens of women.
Millions. Yeah.
But for a long time that was not something. And even still, like when you go to the contest in like Michigan, you don't see like a huge group of women going out to those.
Mhm.
But it was really like a positive thing for me to realize that there's other girls who are from other cities around here who are into the same thing that I'm into, and they're going out on the weekend, traveling out to these things and doing them too. And it gave us kind of our own division where we could, have like an equal playing field and be celebrated for it.
Yeah. And when you entered your first male contest, did you feel nervous? Did you feel like were people like happy and cheering for you, or they were kind of like, like silent?
Oh, people were always nice. Nobody's ever like booed for me entering a.
I'm not saying boo. That means so embarrassing.
No, no, these are people who I like grew up skating with, like all this local stuff. Like I knew everybody, but it wasn't even something I thought much of though. It was like, oh, there's an event this weekend. Let's go check it out, It wasn't until like there were these contests with women's divisions where I was like, okay, I actually gotta make a plan and go like, get a hotel for the weekend and, book all this travel and stuff. And it was like the first like big ones that I went to, and it wasn't even that I thought I really stood much of a chance in them. I just wanted to go like experience it and meet other people who are into what I was into. Was like Exposure, like years ago. That was the first time I was at a skate park where there's like 100 women there.
That was at Pooch Park.
There was one at Poots Park. I've also been to one at like Huntington Beach, which I like that park a lot. I like that park better than Poots, honestly. But
You talking about the van skate park?
yeah, the Van
Yeah.
Skate Park is so fun.
Yeah, they did that one during the COVID, didn't they?
Um,
Or
I man,
I think
probably I
I
think
think
so. I don't really remember. There's been so many now, but I think it was about that time or like either close to that time. I don't know if it was that year or the year before or after. I can't remember, but I I've been to those, and then obviously like some of the border contests, and then I did like that Red Bull circuit because the only reason I did that contest is because I went to Davis Street one day, and one of the guys I rode with goes, you know about that thing in Detroit this weekend? And I was like, what thing? And he goes, it's a contest, and if you get first in women's, you get $500. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go make $500. But I didn't.
You're like, show me the money, man.
Well,
Show me the
I was
money.
like, I'm not gonna go into this messing around. If there's money, I'm gonna go with a plan to go be as consistent as possible, be creative.
Mhm.
I'm never like the best trick skater. That's not me. I'm like the consistent, like, minute or two line, and the basically how I do all the contests. Like, I um, I remember even that year I did like a few contests, and it had been after taking some time off because through COVID I was mostly just skating. I wasn't worried about traveling. I wasn't really worried about skating at like indoor parks where they're gonna like make you wear a mask while you skated. Like, I wanted to just go skate on my own outside and mind my own business and work on freestyle and new stuff. But I had done like some contests at Lot 11, like Rodney Mead. He's like an awesome old vert skater. And
Mhm.
I when I say old, I mean it with the most respect. But he's like a crazy invert dude. He can do the most insane inverts on a vert ramp. It'll blow your mind. Like, go check him out. But he has the Florida Amateur Skate League, and he does contests all over Florida. And they work with the California Amateur Skate League and do like, some collaborations together. But he's doing some stuff at Lot 11, so I went and skated that. And then I went to Spot Tampa for the Harvest Jam, and I didn't even want to go to that. Like, I was working at a skate academy at that point, and I was scheduling skate lessons. And then my boss basically told me, look, you're not going to do any lessons this weekend. You're coming with us to Spot Tampa, and you're going to enter the women's division of the Harvest Jam.
Oh,
And
what? Sick.
but I went and I won, and I didn't expect to win at all. I didn't even expect to place. But then so when Red Bull came along, I was like, well, I'm on a roll. Let's keep it going. But yeah, I went and did the Detroit thing, and then I didn't really realize that it was like a qualifier for a bigger contest even when I went.
Hmm.
So then I got all the information, and they ended up inviting me out to Nebraska where I did like the other qualifier and the finals out there. But like, I don't have an insane amount of contest experience. Like, I've done a decent amount over the years, but it wasn't like the main focus of my skateboarding. It was just something that I like to do when the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah. And do you remember your first contest ever? Were you nervous when you did your first contest?
Um, like first contest, like first little local thing with like all
Yeah,
the people I know, or like first contest like with an announcer and like, a bunch of people watching.
all the above.
I think I'm trying to think. It's been so much stuff over the years and so many different events, and not even just contests, but like, the events that are like the non-tests where it's just you go skate and everybody sees each other like once a year.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think maybe my first contest was that little local one out in Kalamazoo in at that Vine skate park. Um, and it was like a bunch of local dudes. I don't know, it's probably like 15, 20 guys and then me. And I knew going into it, I don't have the biggest tricks. And that's actually okay as long as I can stay on my board and do something creative.
Hmm.
And that's what I always try to go for. But I ended up placing like third or something. And I was surprised. I was like, man, I didn't realize that was even possible. But I realized at that, and that was actually like, it was all people I knew. So it was really supportive people. Like, they're people's families, and I like knew their families and parents. So it wasn't really scary. It was more of just a fun day. And
Hmm.
that's how most of the contests are for me. But I didn't think I'd do that well, but I realized that just being able to stay on your board and get as many tricks in as possible without, ever having to chase your board or slam in front of everybody, that does a lot better for scoring than trying over and over again to do some banger of a trick that you may or may not land, but you'll waste half your time falling. So My first like contests that were like a little bit more organized, a little bit bigger, more people, I'm pretty sure had to have been like the Dave Tuck jams out in Ann Arbor.
Hmm.
And
Were you nervous? Was your hands all clamping up? Were you kind of like,
no, I get excited. I love it.
really?
Like I love people watching. I love the attention. Maybe that's weird, but I think it's so fun. It's so fun. Like not just to like, have people cheering for you, but to be cheering for all the other skaters, and like people get hyped up and start doing stuff that they don't usually do just because of that energy. And I love that energy.
Hmm.
Like
So you
there's
get hyped. So sorry to interrupt you, but you get hyped when people watching you like doing a trick or doing anything. You get really hyped about it.
Well, for a contest, it's like I mean, it's like at the skate park, even, when you see somebody trying something, you start watching, you're like, damn, like they got that, and everybody gets hyped for it. But at a contest, that's when like you go there to do your thing, to show everybody what you got, and that's the time you have to showcase it. And I think it's really fun. I think it's really exciting. There's definitely been times I get nervous a little bit, but as soon as it starts, that all goes away.
Hmm. So who's the biggest person that or that you had to compete against
Um, I think.
that you kind of like shocked like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm skating again with this person, or this person's in my.
I got one. I was trying to think. One year at Exposure, this is the Huntington Beach Exposure. I went there expecting to not do very well, and I mostly was focused on like the street division, and
Mhm.
then like last minute I was like, can I do the vert contest because I just want to skate the vert ramp. And like I don't skate vert. Like all I can do is like slashers and like early grabs below coping. Like there's not a vert ramp where I'm from. You have to drive hours just to find one. But I just wanted to skate the ramp, and I knew it was the only way I could. So I did that vert contest and I did real bad. But in the street contest, I surprised myself, and out of like I don't know, like 20 women. I'm not sure the amount. Like, if I'm off on some of these numbers, forgive me. But I ended up placing like eighth. And to me, I was like, wow, eighth. Like at that time, I
Yeah.
couldn't even believe I was top 10. But one of the, who was in that division?
Who?
Margie Didle.
What?
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Oh, she's a ripper.
Yes,
She's
she is.
insane. And I like just seeing her skate in person, she's an absolute beast. But there were a lot of good girls in that division, but that was like the first one I did where I was like, these are like pros that I've been watching. This is insane.
Did you get nervous when they called your name? It was like Taylor Silverman
Um,
dropping in.
I mean, I think like, right going into it when you're like, okay, like my heat is coming up or whatever, you start to get a little nervous, or at least I get a little nervous, but I'm mostly just excited. Like for me, the way I see it is I get to skate the whole park by myself for a couple minutes.
And what's your experience with exposure? What do you think of it?
I think there's a lot of really positive things about Exposure, and but I think they're handling the trans identifying skater situation wrong, the same way I think that the Border and Red Bull and at the like a lot of different other organizations in different sports are handling it wrong. I think that Exposure's got the right idea of creating a place to showcase the skills of female skaters, and then they even mention like trans skaters. But I think that it would actually be better if they would have like a division dedicated to trans skaters, so there'd be an equal playing field for both, and create some more opportunities for both groups.
And can I ask you why you say that?
Because it's everybody should be able to skate, right? Like
Mhm.
skateboarding is something anybody can do. Competing is a really fun part of skateboarding. It's been really fun for me. But the issue is when male skaters, when someone who identifies as trans but was born male skates in a division with female skateboarders, the fairness aspect of it and the equal opportunity aspect of it get taken away. And I don't think it'd be bad to actually have another division, because the reason why exposure thrived with like this women's division is that they separated the women from men to create this fair stage. And that's not really like exclusive to me. That's like excluding anyone. That's actually creating a place that includes more people. And I think in the same sense, if we created a division that was inclusive for trans skaters, that would actually benefit everybody.
Yeah, I can see that because I mean, like, there's not just with skateboarding. I mean, there's been a lot of incidents with swimming and what MMA. You know,
MMA is a scary one to
yeah,
that's happening.
yeah,
But
and like these
oh,
transgender women that who are men that are entering these contests, these events, and these sports things. It's to me, it's not fair for the woman. Because the
I
woman has to you know, she had to work her ass to get to where she's at. And in a man's world, I hate to say that, man's world, but to get where she's at, and then all of a sudden you got a male that's a trans woman all of a sudden entering these events that these women have worked their asses off to get to and get sponsors and get the approval from the man's world. And
yeah, and also in a lot of these contests, there's money on the line. It can be extremely disheartening for the female skaters to go somewhere and think, well, I'm not allowed to be recognized for what I accomplished because, and the reason being somebody else's feelings matter more than my feelings, and fairness and equal opportunity for me in a space that was supposedly created for people like me.
mhm,
But like I think there's a lot of positive things about exposure, and I think if they actually would listen to some of this stuff, they could sort it out and get it right.
yeah.
And I
And-
have a lot of hope that not just them but all sorts of organizations will sort this out and get it right, because this is something that it's not as new of a phenomena as a lot of people think. It actually has been happening a long time. Like this happened back with tennis decades ago with Renee Richards.
oh
And
yeah, that's right.
Renee
Remember?
Richards was a trans woman who was competing with women, and Renee Richards was significantly older than all the other women. And now actually the women who competed with her and even Renee Richards have made statements about how that was actually wrong, and that was not the what should have happened, and it was unfair. And some of those tennis players are the ones who are in on this whole like save women's sports fight. And it's something that people are gonna have put in their face more and more as we see it happening more. It's the big one everyone knows about is the swimming case, right?
Hmm.
That's the one that got a lot of news coverage. But what people don't know is there's a lot of stories they don't know about that I have I've been able to learn about because of the position I've been in. And there's a lot of track and field cases, there's volleyball cases, there's MMA, like you mentioned, which is especially concerning when this happens in combat sports.
Hmm.
But even in sports that aren't combat or contact sports, this can still present safety issues. Like there was a volleyball case where a high school volleyball player took a spike to the face from a player who's trans, but biologically male, and she had like neck and head injuries from it. And the coaches they actually said, we won't play this school anymore because that was the hardest we've ever seen anybody hit someone in the face with a ball, and this is not like a safe thing for us to be doing anymore. But aside from that, there's a girl who messaged me. She's just a teenager, and she's like a really good jujitsu fighter. And she was in a position where she had a match with someone who's male, and she actually won anyway. She's really talented. She's really good at jujitsu. She wins anyway. And then she speaks up about it anyway because she still recognizes this isn't right. And this is going to eventually lead to some really detrimental problems. But she got attacked with a bunch of backlash on the internet for saying that this isn't fair. And I think there should be some reviews to the policy of which is allowing this to happen. But there's cycling is a huge one. There's tons of cyclists either in like bike racing or even in BMX now.
Mhm.
There's an Olympian in BMX. And it's like when you watch it, it's clearly not fair, but a lot of people won't say anything. But I've seen lots of cases. Like one day we went out, I was in Vegas for a conference and we went out on the strip and we're like interviewing people for like this other girl's TikTok channel, and we're asking people, what do you think about, trans women competing in women's sports? And it only took us asking like 10 different groups of people before one of the girls in one of the groups goes, oh, that happened to me in high school. My basketball team played a team that had a trans player and they absolutely dominated us, and everybody just was too scared to say anything the whole time. And I was like, man, this is pretty common if you can go out on the street and just talk to some people about it and you find other people who've gone through it. But it's happening in high schools a lot, and people are scared to speak up in high schools because there's been cases where girls speak up about the sports stuff, or about having issues in the locker room, feeling uncomfortable or having comments made that are inappropriate from other students, and then they speak up and they get suspended. Like Blake Allen, a volleyball player from Vermont, 14 years old, went to her school to say that a student who identified as trans but was male was in the locker room, and she wasn't comfortable with it, and some stuff had been said that wasn't okay, and the school punished her, and then she
Hold on,
sued the
hold on, hold on,
school.
hold on. They punished her?
They suspended her. They not only suspended her, her father, I believe, I'm trying to remember all the details of this correct, but I believe he was like a coach for one of the teams or something for their school, and he got fired. So they actually filed a lawsuit, and then the school said, "Okay, we'll back down. We're not going to actually go through with that stuff." But it's crazy that they attempted to just silence her and punish her for standing up for herself and for the other girls in her class. But this is like, for me, it's when I was put in this position, I thought, girls at her age, and even I thought, the girl who like placed third at this Red Bull thing, she was like 17 or something. I thought these kids should not have to advocate for themselves. I shouldn't have to advocate for myself here. But I'm 27 years old. Like I'm in a better position to handle this than any kid would be. And when I see kids speaking up about it, like when I saw Blake on the news telling her story, I thought, like, wow, what an inspiring young girl, and she's going to have an amazing life ahead of her, and she's got a really good head on her shoulders. But I also felt, heartbroken, thinking she shouldn't have to be doing this.
Hmm.
Like this isn't right. This isn't something that a 14-year-old should have to be dealing with, and it's standing up for girls and women across the country on. And like this should be something that she shouldn't even imagine as a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not a parent, but a parent that has a 14-year-old daughter, or that's in, or how old in sports at a high school, middle school, elementary school, or whatever, and you have a male that's a transgender, that's a male, changing in a girl's locker room. That's just, to me, if I was a parent, I would not be cool with that, because that's not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I've met one of the parents of one of the girls who had to share locker room with Leah Thomas, the NCAA swimmer from UPenn. And their stories, it's hard to even listen without starting to tear up after hearing what these girls went through, because there were girls who went and expressed concerns, and what they were told is that they were the problem and that they should seek mental health counseling because they were the problem. And it's honestly, it's like, it is tragic, and I don't know how people and society has decided that it's okay to tell women to just deal with it and take the back seat to somebody else in these positions, because women's sports have come a really long way. Women's skateboarding has come a really long way. a big reason why women's sports in like high school and college have come a long way is because of Title IX, which has, this bill that's been in place for 50 years that now the Biden administration is trying to kind of change the wording of the bill so it no longer focuses on protecting female athletes, but it focuses on protecting, your gender identity issues. And I just don't think these are the same things. And I think that female athletes need these protections and need equal opportunity. And it's been really good for all these generations of girls who've gotten to experience this, including myself, getting to, play school sports without worrying about stuff like this. But even like these more independent sports like skateboarding, like cycling, like disc golf is a big one too. A lot of this is happening a lot in disc golf. I did not know until the disc golf girls started reaching out to me, but this is a big deal in disc golf. And I think they recently adjusted their policy slightly, but I think it still has a little work that needs to be done. But even these independent sports, just creating a place for female athletes has helped it go so far and created a lot of opportunity. Like this, a lot of these girls who we all know and love and watch their content and keep up with their skating, we know because they were showcased in big contests.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like social media and everything's had a big portion to do with that too. But the contests for a lot of people, it is important. And I think actually that if we create another space that is intended for trans athletes, that would provide a place where it'd be like a fair competition, that would actually benefit trans athletes too. I think people would watch that. I think that sponsors would want to support it. And I think that it would provide a place for skaters who are trans, who want to participate in skateboarding in a competitive way, to do so and not look like a villain because of it.
Yeah, and and TSM Media, we follow a lot of transgender skaters, and
Hmm.
male and females, and there's a lot that kill it, dude. And I,
Yeah.
in
Oh,
my
yeah.
eyes, and but basically what I'm gonna say is this: is my eyes. I don't care who you are, what color you are, what race you are, what gender you are, whatever. As long as you can ride a board and have fun,
Yep.
I support you 100%. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You can be whatever you want to be and do whatever you want. That's you. I'm not going to judge you who you are and what you decide to be. But I look at you as a skateboarder because you ride a board, you have fun. We have a lot in common because we're skateboarders.
Yep.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I've said that before, that one of the things I love most about skateboarding is that it draws a lot of different types of people from different walks of life to love it. And we all share that. And it's something, you don't have to wear a uniform, you don't have to try out for a team. You get to be yourself completely, and you get to skateboard in any way you want. That's why like some of my favorite skateboarders are the people who do like the really creative stuff or kind of bring freestyle into street skateboarding, because it's not the first thing you'd think of, and it makes people stand out. And I love that about skating. Like there's no rules.
Yeah, no, there's no rules at all
But it's
until politics get into it.
Well, I feel like
Then there
with
is.
contests, I think we should, have some sort of policy in place so that we can handle all this correctly. But what it doesn't need to be is anything that excludes anybody. It
Yeah,
actually needs to be something that includes everyone, but in a way that is fair to everyone, and that just makes more sense, and doesn't require like everybody just shaking their heads yes to some like the really radical, like woke ideologies that we're seeing today, that shouldn't be a part of this. Like it shouldn't be political. I don't think it's a political issue. I think this is actually a nonpartisan issue that, is more of a common sense thing than I have a political agenda thing.
yeah. So basically, what you're saying is to make it fair, to open up another category where transgenders can skate
Well,
and keep it
I
equal.
think there's like a couple different ways that a couple different directions we could go in. And like that requires, you know, being able to have the conversation. But I think one of the directions is to actually create a division dedicated to this. I think that could work in something like skateboarding. Now that might be a little harder to figure out in certain sports where there's not as many like participants who are trans. But in skateboarding, like you were saying, there's a lot of trans skaters. There's a lot of really good trans skaters, really talented skaters. And this could actually be a really positive thing. The other idea, which I think is probably the one that people would be less interested in, is that people skate in the division of which their biological sex is, and the people in that division be open and welcoming to that. Because you know what I think would be awesome? I don't know if this is going to be a popular thing to say, but can you imagine if a trans woman went to a men's contest and like did really well and was on podium? That would be awesome.
That'd be rad to see. I would actually see that. That'd be cool to see that.
That'd be a news story that I would actually be like happy about. But when people see it happening, that it's the women's division where someone actually at the advantage is entering, then that's when people recognize it as problematic. But it definitely be worth trying out having a trans division. I think that that would be positive for everyone involved. And like I said, I think that a lot of companies would be supportive of that. And you know, there's different.
I mean, there's transgender skateboard brands now, and I think
Yeah,
that's awesome. I think that's rad as shit. They have that.
yeah, I think there's a reason why we have separations with different divisions in sports. And even like you think about, like there's like people who compete in sports who have disabilities. They
Hmm.
compete in, you know, a way that they are competing with people who are like on this level playing field as them, and that's actually a positive thing. It creates a space for people to do that. And it's
And,
not the exact same thing, but it's just like creating these spaces is actually a good thing, I think.
and who does that is Dutour. Dutour does that the division where they have the men, the women, and then they have the I forgot what it's called, the guys on the
Like
wheelchairs.
adaptive or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because you know how many skateboarders there are who are blind?
I know. There's a
More
lot.
than you would think.
And there's a lot of skaters that have no legs that kill it, dude.
Yeah, and it's like you look at something like that, and you know, sometimes maybe people just all jump into a division, but it's actually really nice when there's something set aside to showcase the skills of those who are kind of outliers of the main group.
Because if you think about it, I mean, I've been doing it skateboarding for 33 years, and to see skateboarding what it is now, and what I'm about to say is skateboarding. The world watches what skateboarding does. I don't know why, but it has always been. You got fashion trend,
Oh
copy
yeah.
us. You got music and skateboarding goes good together. And skateboarding there's no racism. We all look at each other as equal as one. I mean, there is some racism is everywhere, but in skateboarding, it's we don't care who you are, what color you are, what religion you are, whatever. You're
Hmm.
just a skateboarder, like I said, and and the world looks at us. And I think if we make a stand as skateboarders to make a stand of a statement, say, hey, you know what? Let's do, let's make this better and show the other world, hey, this does work. Look at what we're doing. And
Hmm.
everybody's happy and everybody's having fun and skateboarding. That's what, end of the day, it's all about love and skateboarding. That's all it's about.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've had people say that I say things that I don't say a lot of times. Like,
Like what? Like what?
oh, there's people be like, oh, well, she doesn't want trans people to skate. And I'm like, I've never said that. In fact, I've said the opposite.
Well,
I,
hold on. Pause real quick. I want you to, me personally, I want you to, though, to those people that say that to you, right now is your chance to tell them how you feel
I think
about.
I've been telling them how I feel this whole interview. I'd say
I know you have. I know you have, but personally from you.
I would say before you're, you know, quick to get offended, I think it's really important to hear people out and hear the perspectives of those who have been impacted negatively by this. And my intention, like I've said this whole time, has been to actually maintain fairness, maintain equal opportunity, not to exclude anybody by any means. And it's upsetting when skaters will take will like not listen to the interview where I'm actually explaining all this, but rather they'll, you know, in a rage of being upset, say, well, she just hates trans people. I'm like, I never said anything like that. In fact, I am super grateful for all the support that I get from trans people, because an insane amount of trans people reach out to me in my comments and my messages. And I've actually like made friends with some of these people who tell me, hey, you're right. We know you're not being hateful, and we actually agree with you. We recognize that's unfair, and we're not about that. And we think that this small amount of, you know, really extreme activists, most of which are not trans, are trying to paint a picture that we think this is okay when we don't, and it makes us look bad. So we appreciate people speaking up about it, because when trans people speak up about it, they get mobbed and dogpiled and attacked too. And I think it's important to hear these perspectives. But you know, I also, to the people who like hate me, like, I, you know what? I actually think it's nice that you want to stand up for your friends, but don't let critical thinking go out the window. And being truthful, sometimes even if it's an uncomfortable truth, it's better than spreading what appears to be a comfortable lie. And for the long run and the long picture, I think it will actually benefit everyone more than going along with something that we know deep down is not the right way to handle it. But you know, I don't take any of the hate too personally, especially like the more extreme stuff. When people start saying really crazy stuff to me that suggests, you know, this isn't a mentally healthy person who's writing horrible things, or like death threats, or like, you know, trying to dox me or something. Like, this is not mentally healthy people who do this kind of stuff on the internet. So I feel some sympathy towards that, even, which I don't know if I'm being too nice, but like, you know, hear me out. Like, I'm listening to your side, and I did a lot of research about this and listened to all these different views on this before I said anything, because I really wanted to get an idea of how people felt about this and what I was stepping into. But this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue if we allow it to. And I think that it'd be a lot easier to deal with now. And we can do that in a compassionate way. We can do that in a way that still will have a solution that can please everybody. Like, maybe it won't be your first choice, but I think that it can actually turn out to be a really beautiful thing. But, you know, like, listen to people. You gotta be able to listen. And if your defense is to say that I'm saying things that I'm not saying, because people will say I say like terrible things, and then I'm like, where's the clip? You know, like, if you can present me any evidence that I'm saying these things, by all means do. But it's never happened, because I've been sticking to the truth on this.
Hey, you know what, Taylor? We're gonna end on that note because that was a perfect ending.
All right, cool. Well, actually, before we end though, I was curious, like, do
Yeah,
you do you get any hate just for doing what you do, and whether it's about this or other stuff? And
I
how
mean,
do you
I,
deal with
I do. I mean, to what I'm gonna say is, yeah. I mean, we do get hate on TSN Media
it? Mhm.
for what we do. But you know what? I mean, when a prime example, when you and me start talking, and I'm interested in your story, want to know about you, and this and that, and I never publicized it and say, hey, me and Taylor are doing an interview together. I never publicized it, but I remember,
Well, I'd seen you like in my comments section
yeah,
occasionally, or sharing a post that was about like all of it.
yeah, and I share your posts, and I do comments, a star and pound. That's just my way of showing that's respect.
Yeah,
Respect what you're doing. But I'm not like we keep it very neutral. You know what I mean?
yeah, that makes sense.
And I just want to say this here is, that just TSM Media is about skateboarding. We're about support skateboarding. We're about support, what we love, that you love, and that you fell in love with a magic carpet, And like I said before, we don't care what you are, who you are, what color you are, what race you are, what gender. We don't care. As long as you can ride that board or just push it, we show you a lot of respect. We will repost your stuff. We will do whatever we can to help promote you because you're skateboarding. We love skateboarding. We don't care.
Yeah.
And we support all. We support women skaters, transgender skaters, black skaters, Asian skaters, all that. But we still get hate from people because we have no idea. We have no idea.
Well,
And
I think that sometimes people who are looking to be offended will find it no matter
uh,
what.
oh, I know. And it's like, for example, this one person says something to me and was like, "Oh, you need to go on your own page."
Hmm.
And I'm like, what? Your own page? And then he was like, yeah, you're a Taylor Silverman supporter. You need to stop supporting this stuff. And I was like, what, dude?
You wouldn't believe the amount of like friends or like other skaters. There's been like pro skaters who reach out to me and tell me this, or people who I'm friends with, but we don't talk about it too publicly. But if you do enough research, you can figure out who my friends are. But they've gotten waves of hate about it, and they were like, dude, I had no idea how bad it was until like there was a photo of us together and people started like coming after me and like harassing my job and doing crazy stuff. And I was like, yeah, like it's like that for me every day, all day, thousands of messages and tweets and comments at me every day of people saying some of the worst stuff that you would never imagine anybody would like just even have the motivation to say to a stranger on the internet, someone they don't even know a lot of the time. But that's been eye-opening for a lot of my friends too, and help them understand the cult-like mentality of some of the activists who encourage the more severe woke stuff.
Yeah.
And it's wild, but like it all it is comments on the internet. All it is words. And I think that the truth is bigger than that.
No, and it's sad that people are attacking you like that because, and this is my ending for this and this is to the people who listen to us, the haters out there that are hating on you or whatever. Taylor Silverman is not against trans. She supports it, but she doesn't want to see she wants to see a division for transgenders, or something to help promote their skateboarding, not to, to me personally, I don't think it's fair that a transgender enters a woman's contest because it's not fair for a woman because a woman worked hard to get where she's at. And like I said before, in a man's world, and
And
then
for
also
for
have a
anybody who doesn't really understand why it's unfair, there's a lot of very major and even subtle biological differences between males and females. And by male and female, I'm talking about your chromosomes that you're born with. And this can absolutely impact how hard it is to learn tricks. There's things like your center of gravity, like the size of your hips and the angle that it creates that can make women more susceptible to things like knee and ankle injuries, like stuff even like bone density and like lung capacity. Like these are all play into athletics. And I I know that, we're seeing that these biological differences that have been recognized by science for forever are being ignored. And aside from this being dangerous for women's sports, I really think it's problematic for society to be in the mindset that if you don't like something that is a fact, something that is truth, you can just say, well, that's fake. That's not real. Like these are indefinite truths that we all recognize, and they're there for a reason. Like the reason why we have the women's division is because women we're built differently. We are different in the realm of athletics, and that's okay. It doesn't mean we're worse, But the truth of the matter is that people who identify as trans, they're just not physically the same as biological females, and that's not a bad thing. That's okay, but it doesn't create a fair playing field for
Yeah.
competition.
And what we need to do as skateboarders and the skate industry and is to make a difference, is to get
Yeah,
together and make a difference, figure out how we can make things equal, make things right. If we have to do like, transgender division, in these women contests or men or or if they want to skate a man's contest, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, we just have to get together and work this out and make this all happen perfectly so that way everybody's happy. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I
And
think having these conversations and raising awareness about it is the first step.
but like I said, Taylor Silverman is not against transgender. She supports you guys. But for events, not just skateboarding and swimming and women's contests and stuff like that, something has to work for that. And if like I said before, and what Taylor said, if we have to do a transgender division, well, let's do it. You know what I mean? Because like I said, there's a lot of good transition skaters out there that freaking kill it,
Yep.
and I support that, and I support, like I said before, I support anything, dude. As long as you skateboard, dude. If I see a squirrel skating down the street, I'll fucking be hyped, dude. I'll throw him some
We
peanuts,
need,
dude. Like, fuck
and
yeah.
on that note, we need a division for squirrels. Just
Hey,
kidding.
that'd be gangster, dude. Squirrel skateboarding coming up. No, I'm joking. But what I want to say before we end this is stop the hate, man.
Yeah,
Seriously. And
and both ways too. Because I noticed there's a lot of hateful stuff that goes on in the comment sections of my posts, and it comes from both sides. And
mhm.
I'm not cool with the hate on either side of it. We need to have a reasonable discussion. So, being hateful towards the female athletes or parents or people who speak up about this is not going to be productive. And being hateful towards the athletes who are trans who have done this is not particularly productive either, and including just trans people as a whole, like saying nasty things or using, language that actually is associated with being hateful. That's not productive. We need to have an honest discussion.
Yeah, and I agree. We should all work together and make something happen. Because it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then if nothing ever happens, then the problem's going to get way worse.
Yeah, and I hope that more people realize that, and I'm really hopeful they will, because like I actually think there's a lot of people whose minds will change when they learn more and they see more cases of this, and they'll realize that they don't need to be afraid of being viewed as hateful people for thinking about this with some logic and coming to a conclusion that isn't what they're told they have to think. But we're seeing the beginning of it. I don't think it's going to be a sprint. I think it's going to be a marathon towards a solution, but I know that there will be a solution, and I will not lose hope on that, and I will not stop telling my story because I feel a moral obligation to do so.
And hey, we do live in America that's called freedom of speech, so we're
Yep.
allowed to speak our minds, and,
Yes.
and speak our opinions, and and people have to understand, if you don't, you're not going to always agree on people's opinions, but don't
Mhm.
hate on them. You know what I mean? Don't hate on them speaking their opinions. And like I said, this one last time, Taylor Silverman is not a transgender hater. She supports you guys, but wants to see something big for skateboarding. Maybe a division for you guys, so you guys can show your skills of skateboarding, man. Just stop this hate. That's all I ask. Just stop the hate if we can do it. But who knows?
I have hope. I think that things will things will get better. I wish that we didn't have to like reiterate over and over again, like, this is not to be hateful. I wish people understood where I was coming from. And I really think that if they hear me out and listen to the things I'm saying, they will. But if all you can do is look at a nasty headline written by a journalist whose whole job is to write nasty, shocking headlines, you're not going to ever understand my perspective. And I really like, thank you to everybody who listened to this and actually got through it and did hear me out. And keep having these conversations. We got to remove the taboo about it.
All right, definitely. Well, Taylor Silverman, thank you so much for speaking your mind. And you're a strong woman. And hey, high five through the phone or through
High five.
whatever we're at.
Thank you for having me, Tommie. It was really good to talk to you. I know we went over. I can ramble on forever. I'm a good talker, but
No, hey, you spoke your mind. That's what this is about. It's about speaking your mind and letting how you're feeling goes out.
well, you too though. I mean, like you shared your opinions about the stuff, and honestly, doing that in this day and age can be scary on its own. So I respect anybody who's willing to do that.
Oh yeah, girl. Well, high five through the computer. Ah.
For sure. And we'll stay in touch. Maybe one day I'll be out in California. We'll have a session.
Oh yeah, dude. We'll go shred the park.
Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Okay, cool.